I'm going to go through quite a bit of content. So what I've done is I want you to go away with some access to some resources that we've developed through the Office of Sport. So on some of the pages, I'm featuring a QR code. So hopefully you can grab that, with your phone or on the subsequent recording, and you'll be able to get direct access to some of our great resources in the Office of Sport. Big shout out to my colleague Rebecca Neal, who I know is on this present on this call as well. So let's get started. So I wanted to take you back in time, all about talking about the origins of FTEM. And it came in around 2010. We were working with the Australian Sports Commission, and this fellow on the screen, Associate Professor Jason Goulburn, my colleagues Morag Crozer, Alyssa Morley, Alicia Matthews, and others, we were working in the National Talent ID program. And it was an incredible program. It supported 14 sports, 14 NSOs across Australia, and really buffed up, the talent ID and the talent pathways in those sports. In around 2010, and with our move to the AIS, there was a closure of the National Talent ID program. There was Jason, Morag, Alyssa and myself and Alicia Matthews, who were the sole, the 5 remaining staff. We had to take carriage of the athlete pathways and development area. So a new department was set up, and our role was to support national sporting organisations to develop their strategies and implementation of pathways. To support us in that role, we really looked towards the opportunity of developing a practical and evidence-based athlete development framework that we could use to support our work with the national sporting organisations, which were, I think it was well over 35 to 40 national sporting organisations. And we could see the potential utility of having a framework to support all those NSOs, bring them all along, be educated about a best practice approach of pathways, support their strategies, support their implementation, and also a way that we're all consistent, I guess, in our advice as well. So the key considerations for building a framework specific to Australia, we needed to consider a few things. We, at the top, that relates to a very extensive literature review that we did. We looked at frameworks that were existent at that time all over the world. We were looking at their fantastic contributions, things that we would implement with FTEM, but also we're cognizant of where there might be some limitations with the implementation of those frameworks as well. And we could see that probably the framework we need to put together shouldn't be age prescriptive, because we could see with some frameworks it's potentially restrictive in that respect. The other thing we needed to do was really build this framework and advocate a best practice approach for each level, and specific to what it took for effective athlete development. It needed to facilitate a holistic, integrated approach to athlete development. And it also was an opportunity to really shine the light on decades of incredible work through the Australian Institute of Sport in talent ID and honing talent promotion processes. So I'm speaking to the work that was way back in the late 80s, preceding Sydney 2000, led by people like Professor Alan Hahn. So incredible work. Even through the NTID program, incredible learnings there about what it takes to have an effective talent promotion process to really refine your talent ID and your talent pipeline. The framework also needed to be flexible and adaptable. So it had to be able to be relatable to a sport, a position in a sport, different levels of ability, so Paralympic athletes as well as able-bodied athletes. It needed to cater for the characteristically non-linear trajectory of athletes in their development. We were well aware, based on research that we had done with, I think, 256 top athletes in the Australian system, we could see the chaos on the pathway and all the different trajectories that they took. So we had to be cognizant of that, and this framework really needed to cater for that. It also needed to cater for talent transfer, as well as your talent selection, your traditional talent selection, and also the concurrent involvement of athletes as well within different sports, within different levels. A big focus of the framework was the foundations of sport. We were sitting on an incredible intelligence, but it was quite alarming, and it still is, I must say, in the decline of fundamental movement skills of children in schools. And that was based at that time on the incredible work through University of Sydney, the SPAN study that was showing a very low level of mastery of fundamental movement skills, particularly by girls within the school ages in the primary schools. So we knew that this is critically important to really shine a light on the foundations to support physical literacy and sport acquisition, those skill acquisition for young kids. It was important to then support play for life, but also they're critical foundations to support future high performance as well, because we could see the limitations in the profiles of a lot of the talented emerging athletes because of these issues with fundamental movement skills and physical literacy. So that was a big focus. Another opportunity was to really shine a light on the talent pathways, to show that it really is the critical conduit between participation and high performance. It's absolutely key for sustainable high performance outcomes. And then lastly, the framework needed to enable, our systems at all levels, to make sure that they're giving the right support at the right time to the athlete, and it needed to be truly operational and practical and not theoretical and sit on a page. So down the bottom is some of the literature that informed these considerations. And hence we built FTEM, which was published in 2013. We had really robust discussions internally between Morag and Alyssa, Jason and I and Alicia, which was fantastic. I think the most debate was actually probably in the foundational levels. We put such focus on those foundational levels, and it was fun. It was really fun working on it together, and we could see this great opportunity through the framework. So FTEM stands for foundation, T for talent, E for lead, and M for mastery. So what I want to do is just unpack the original FTEM and show you the features, consider the considerations that I just spoke about in the last slide. So I've highlighted the participation or the foundational levels here. So we could see that what was critical to set up children and youth and future high performance athletes, they needed a progression, a chronology of sorts in terms of their foundational movement skills, their introduction to sport, their commitment to a sport, connection with the coach, training and so forth. And so that's why we've got a deliberate chronology of F1, which really is all about fundamental movement skills, land-based, aquatic, supporting children or even individuals that have acquired a disability to relearn their fundamental movement skills. And we considered the fundamental movement skills and early physical literacy as a really critical foundation. So that's why it's F1. F2 is in the expression of physical literacy and the enhancement of it, and learning early sporting skills and those experiences through introductory and age-modified formats of sport in F2. F2 is also about play and sampling different sports as well. And then F3 is all about committing to a sport or two or a few and going to training, connecting with the coach, competing as well. So very deliberate chronology, but even already you can see it caters for a bit of non-linearity when you consider individuals with an acquired disability. Also, it supports adults that may not have played a sport before, and they're coming into the F2 level as well, into an introductory format of that sport. As I touched on, we were cognizant of what was absolutely key in the foundational levels of sport, and all through, I guess, the speak of FTEM in the foundational levels is the importance of play. We recognise how important free play is for having fun, to enjoy, to be creative, to build the profile, the developmental profile, for adaptability. And we're also cognizant that play has been on the decline as well. Also sampling, so speaking to the importance of sport diversification before specialisation. And that was based on our learnings, but also globally, how important that is to support ongoing engagement in sport, reduce and minimise injury and burnout, and so forth. There was also a focus on the holistic development of the participant as well. So not just the physical, but the technical, the tactical, the psychosocial aspects of the participant profile as well. And then importantly, the knowledge and application of the participant. So not just training and competing, but understanding about recovery and nutrition and sleep and injury prevention. A little bit, very much like the athlete, but all really important skills and important life skills as well. Now, we were very confident that getting this right and building these foundations will be key to support physical literacy and sports participation through the lifespan, so child, youth, adult, and to the senior level as well. And what I've highlighted up the top there are the little arrows that commonly get missed in this framework. What it represents and acknowledges is the concurrent involvement of a youth or an adult or a senior participant in different formats of sport, social formats, modified formats, traditional formats of sport, but also active lifestyle pursuits as well. So really, we were very confident that getting these foundations right will be critical to supporting lifelong physical literacy and engagement, enjoyable engagement, fulfilling engagement in sport and recreation. We also recognise that getting these foundations right are critical to supporting the emerging athlete and setting them up for future success through the high performance pathway. We focus on the talent levels. I like to refer to these T1, T2, T3, 4 levels as processes. So through our work through the National Talent ID program and based on the work from the AIS, this combination T1 to T4 really is a best practice approach to talent ID and development and transition. So it's really all about enhancing the talent pipeline and making it a great experience for the emerging athletes so they can develop and fulfill their sporting aspirations, but also the right fit of support at the right time around that emerging athlete as well. So while it looks linear on the page and it looks like there's definitely a chronology to it, there's actually quite a lot of flexibility taking that process sort of approach to it. Now, we know in reality, emerging athletes can come into the start of the high performance pathway and the talent levels, and they can do it at different age bands. They can do it as a under 14 and under 16, under 18, under 20. And in essence, athletes are percolating through these levels. So the identification, the T1, the talent verification, and then the talent development. So they can go through it, an athlete can go through this, through the age bands and quite a few times. The other thing we needed to cater for is, as I touched on, the permeability of the talent pathways. So having a process approach, a best practice process approach, assists us to cater for athletes that are coming from recreational sport into the talent pathways, talent transfer and talent detection athletes coming in from another sport into their new recipient sport. Also that squiggly arrows to show that non-linear trajectory, of athletes. where there can be concurrent junior and senior representation as well. And then finally, that arrow up the top about the criticality of transition and preparing them for that elite level, which we could see with our research and with our experiential learning. That's a tricky transition. But I'll unpack the talent levels in a bit more. The elite levels, we're very deliberate here too. A lot of frameworks stop at what we call E1, elite representation or national representation. Or for a professional sport, it's playing, competing or in a team at the highest level of professional sport in that top tier. So a lot of frameworks stopped there, but we realised that we needed to look towards more longevity in elite performance. We needed to learn from athletes that do it time and time again over consecutive high performance cycles, those mastery level athletes. And we need to understand about what it takes to get podium success, which is E2. So again, a very deliberate chronology and extension on former frameworks. Again, I highlight the arrows at the top, again, commonly missed, but really signifies the importance for elite athletes to engage in recreational sport. We've got great learnings where a lot of our top athletes do a recreational sport as an outlet, and they really attribute that to their longevity and success in sport as well. So altogether, I guess FTEM really provides an inclusive whole of sport framework. It caters for all the outcomes in Australian sport, and also it's very useful to help facilitate operational linkage and alignment. Now, at the time we put FTEM together, and I'm a mad skill acquisitionist with my PhD, and I remember having the discussion with Jason, and I said, I love FTEM, and I really love to unpack what does it mean in terms of the athlete profile. What does that look like at each level, the participant profile in a holistic sense? And then what's the coordination of the environmental partners, so that, you know, your coaches, your clubs, your parents, the community, what is everyone doing? And then the system overlay. And so I developed with Jason the 3D athlete development model that in essence I use now to complement FTEM. I use it to get the granularity and to operationalize an FTEM level, the macro and the micro, and it really helps to understand where the participant and athlete's at in terms of their profile, that holistic profile, and then who are the key support people around them, the opportunities, and then what's the system linkage. And this is really important to map out in terms of the environmental supporters, who you need to educate, who you need to engage to make sure everyone's on the same page to support the participant and athlete. So I've really found through my career, it's the complement of FTEM and the 3DAD that really assists me when I work with any sporting organisation, coach, parent, athlete. Now, FTEM was recognised by the IOC in the IOC consensus statement in 2015. Early adopter of FTEM was Swimming Australia. They put together a swimmer framework in around 2014, which really shows that blend of FTEM and 3DAD. I understand they're reviewing this at the moment, but it stood the test of time, and it's fantastic to still see on their website. A sport that I worked with in about 2018-19 was Snow Australia. Fantastic pathway documents. If you go to their website, they've got 7 different pathways specific to the 7 disciplines, and they really unpack, as you can see here, an operational sense for each level, what the description is, what's the on and off snow support, what can the athlete expect. Internationally, Switzerland's really led the way with the support of Jason. They've done a phenomenal job. They use FTEM for a lot of their Olympic sports. Japan in the middle, down the bottom. I really love that representation with the fan. really on board with FTEM as well. That's through the work of Alyssa Morley and Jason again. And then I've had the great fortune to work with the Gaelic Games in Ireland. They are doing a tremendous job utilising FTEM, really committing to it, doing some great work with club education, coach education, the alignment of service providers for each level, a curriculum, fantastic research that they're doing. It's really, really impressive, and really impress on you to go and have a look at their website and what they're doing. It's fantastic. Now, in New South Wales, I lead the Future Champions strategy. That was launched in late 2019. It's all about what we can do in New South Wales to better support our emerging athletes. There's your first QR code to access that original strategy. Now, to support me in my role, I needed a framework myself. So FTEM is obviously the natural fit. I was sharing with Joe and Christian colleagues that in my role, I had to give advice to a really broad and dynamic sector, 100 SSOs, academies of sport, the school sector, clubs, work with NSWIS. So I needed a framework that was going to assist me in that role, but also a framework that the system could relate to and to support what they're doing as well, particularly the state sporting organisations. And this is FTEM New South Wales here. So it was great. I got the opportunity to revisit FTEM. You can see the difference is that got a bit more imagery, wonderful imagery where we've got Jess Fox and Madison De Rosario as ambassadors up the top there. There's a bit more fleshing out of the opportunity within the participation pathways, the different formats. And you'll note there's an F0 as well, which is all about really early movement foundations with babies and toddlers as well. So that is FTEM New South Wales. So it's been a really helpful guiding framework for the work that I do to support a whole state and sector. I'm going to focus a bit on the talent levels now and show you that. Now, you can actually access this page. It's really a description of the FTEM New South Wales talent pipeline. I guess I was addressing where I was hearing from stakeholders that there was an assumed chronology or age band for the talent levels. And I guess it was up to me to sort of put out there what really the talent levels are all about and to educate stakeholders on it. And what you can see here is educating on the talent promotion processes that are within T1, T2, T3 and T4. So I think it's a great just sort of summary of it. So T1 is all about those opportunities for an athlete to demonstrate their initial talent potential. This can be in different ways. It can be being observed in competition, or it could be a TID day. What I've recognised here is the importance of having a mixed approach to it if there's capacity, if there's a right fit of coaching. So you have your traditional talent that you're looking for within a sport, but also there's opportunities to look at athletes outside of the sport. If they're a younger athlete and they've got particularly attributes, physiological attributes, physical attributes for talent detection and for talent transfer for elite athletes or very high emerging athletes to come back and try a different sport, who have the training age, the history, the psychological skills, and probably have sampled, hopefully, that sport as well, and the engine. So really, T1's an opportunity to take a complementary approach to TID, to look at those talent within and talent outside the sport. What we really advocated through FTEM is the complement of T1 and T2. We could see that if you have a snapshot of an athlete's potential within competition, within a TID testing day, not getting a sense of their holistic profile, their readiness, their coachability, their commitment. So T2 is all about embedding selected athletes in T1 into a dedicated confirmation period, a probation period, putting them into like a training, a camp, a developmental camp, observing them over a period of time, just to confirm they're ready, they've got the holistic profile, they're coachable and so forth. We highly advocate that it's T1 and T2 together that will inform effective selection decisions into T3. So T3 is all about holistic development. And as you know, there's limited resources. So getting it right in T1 and T2 is really important because you're embedding an athlete with limited resources in there. You want to make sure you're in the ballpark with your selections. So it really helps to hone that. So T3 is all about deliberate programming. So it's the fit of camps, competitions, coaching, education, everything you can throw at that emerging athlete. And then it culminates in T4, where the athlete shows that they're ready for that jump up soon into the elite levels. T4 is about what signifies that their readiness, but also then how you prepare that emerging athlete for that can be tricky transition. And as I touched on before, it's very characteristic of athletes to go through the T1, T2 and T3 process quite a few times, ideally, as they go up the age bands. So working with sports, while we have a good understanding of the best practice approach in the T levels, we also need to have an eye on the future, and we need to be aligned with our national sporting organisations and the NIN as well. And I wrote a book chapter in 2017 sort of talking about a top-down approach. So, and using that to inform what we're doing in the talent levels. So it really is all about understanding what it takes at the very top level in terms of the athlete profile. So what does it take to have professional success and international success in Olympic and Paralympic sport? And for me, that was absolutely key to understand that profile, to then inform your fit of talent ID strategies, your talent development strategies, and then your transitional strategies. And it's great to see the AIS use this sort of approach in their What It Takes to Win initiative, and now in their athlete development frameworks for national sporting organisations that's led by the Performance Pathways team as well. But for me, I guess having it on page and having a strategy is one thing, but you've got to bring it to life operationally, and that's really important. So how I layer it is just like the 3DAD. So get an understanding of the required profile for the emerging athlete, for that sport, that sub-discipline. Get an understanding of the fit of best practice opportunities. What does your talent ID initiatives look like? Your programs, your education, your holistic support. Layer 3, who are those key service partners to support the emerging athlete? And then finally, what is the oversight of, say, an SSO and to support their leadership overseeing all the talent pathways? So really helpful for an SSO to understand this, get it on the page, but bring it to life. And this is really important for not just implementation, but agreements, MOUs and so forth. What we're working towards in New South Wales is working with a lot of sports, particularly leading up to Brisbane 2032, to put together a talent strategy on the page. So this is what I call a back of house sort of expression of FTEM and 3DAD. And what you're seeing here is just a sample. It's only the first page of a 3-page sort of PDF, but it's really useful to have something like this for an SSO to lead their talent strategy across the sector. It's built through collaboration with all the key partners to get to this point. It'll inform programs and delivery. It'll assist fit and alignment and coordination of partners. And also, really importantly, it's a legacy for the state sporting organisation to implement, to learn from, and to evolve as well. A great example of front of house communication of FTEM and resources is Netball New South Wales. They've done a fantastic job. One of the first state sporting organisations I worked with, and a big shout out to Margaret Hanley, who's now with Rowing Australia, and Maddie Applin as well. You can see here, you can get a bit creative with FTEM, which is really neat. So this one is in the form of a netball court. What I love about it, you can see the imagery, you've got the mantras up the top, there's the linkage with competition and logos, so a player can easily see where they are on the pathway and what the opportunity is for them. Netball New South Wales went the step further, developed fantastic coaching resources, because there's so many netballers, so many coaches. The academies of sport are integral in the delivery of the pathway strategy as well. They needed to give some education for coaches and make sure the coaches are on the same page. So they've got these foundation coaching resources and a talent coaching resource, which is fantastic as well, and then a parental resource as well. They really have done an outstanding job with their communications and education of stakeholders and resources. In the Office of Sport, we're tackling this in different ways. Really, I guess our focus is to support and empower our state sporting organisations to lead talent pathways and the foundational pathways as well. And the key contacts for me are talent pathway managers and doing that mentoring and educating them and bringing them along. So we do it in different ways. We've got the original FTEM documents that unpack each level and the best practice approach. We do education networking events. This is from last year, where we had Lauren Burns speak. She was our keynote. And now we've got some online courses we've built. So we've got a foundation pathways course and a talent pathways course that's accessible for talent or for pathway managers within the state sporting organisations as well. So early days with that, that's something I'm going to really utilise and work with the pathway managers to use this tool to help them understand best practice approach, to help them with their talent strategy development, to help them with their coaching strategies as well. In terms of participants and athletes, our Office of Sport website, we've got a Pathways and Development web pages. We've had lots of fun. We're identifying where there might be gaps in terms of education for emerging athletes and where there's opportunities. And this is an example here, our webpage, Empowering an Athlete's Mental Toolkit, which you can access. We've got 20 psychological resources that we developed with experienced sports psychologist Fiona McCarthy, and we've run a couple of webinars as well. We like to change it up a bit, so we might have the webinars, we've got the downloadable resources, but we've got infographics as well, and this is an example of one of the psychological resources as well. So that QR code will enable you to access this page and to explore some of those resources that you might want to utilise in your school, in your sporting organisation, or even as a parent or a coach as well. We're taking it next level. So again, another shout out to my dear colleague, Rebecca Neal, who has helped, I've assisted her to develop online courses for athletes. The first one we did was the Holistic Athlete Program, phenomenal program, all about physical literacy, building that for emerging athletes, what knowledge they need, what skills and strategies do they need. This has been a work in progress for 3 years. Very glad to say we received an award last year through the LearnX Awards, and we're a finalist for the Australian Industry Training and Development, which is fantastic. That's next week. We're actually going to the award ceremony. We've also got a mental toolkit. So we used all the psychological resources on the website and put it into a nice flow of education for athletes. And like the Holistic Athlete Program, we're getting fantastic feedback, testimonials from emerging athletes actually using it, and their coaches as well. And down the bottom here, we engaged sport dietitian Sally Walker to put together some content. So we're really getting these industry experts. Holistic Athlete Program, we got Nicola Mepstead, a very accomplished sports physio. We're getting these industry experts to work with us to put content in for these online courses. So we're really excited about, the opportunity that this brings to support athletes, emerging athletes across the state. In terms of coaches, for me, huge priority. We really need to empower and support our coaches as best we can. We're absolutely reliant on them to support, emerging athletes and to guide them and to facilitate their development. So we've got a web page there you can access using the QR code. Again, we like to mix it up. So we've got the FTEM coaching resources for the foundation talent levels, but then we've got templates too. So just generic templates a coach can download and they can make it how they want it, but just a bit of a guiding template for them if it's coach's eye or it's an individual athlete development plan. We've got quite a few templates that we've put together for the sector. I wanted to highlight this one. We've done a fantastic project working with the University of Sydney. Professor Stephen Cobley and Dr Sean Abbott looking at the impact of maturation on the emerging athlete. So it's been a work in progress, I think 2 to 3 years. We've built infographics, phenomenal academic resource that they put together. Then we've had webinars, we've got resources online, and then it's culminated in the development of an online maturity status calculator, which is fantastic. So anyone, if they've got the standing height, the sitting height, the body mass, the heights of the mum and dad, they can pop it in there and they can ascertain where an emerging athlete is in respect to their peak height velocity, otherwise known as their growth spurt. So it can be very handy to discern and work out that an athlete might be a late maturer or they're going through the growth spurt and they need to be managed really carefully because of a risk of injury, a decrement in their technical skills. It can impact their psychological side of things as well because a lack of confidence, or whether they're actually going on to maturity. So really critical tool that I wanted to call out that we're very proud of, and that we're hoping that is a critical tool for coaches to inform the guidance and the practices with emerging athletes. Parents, critically important as well. You can see while I advocate a system approach through 3D-AD, we're actually taking a system approach in terms of our education and engagement with stakeholders. So parents, critically important to support the emerging athlete. So we've done it different ways. Again, we've engaged Fiona McCarthy, very passionate about empowering parents. So we've put together some online parental resources that you can access. We've done some webinars where we feature Fiona. We've done even animations. And this is an example of one of the resources. So I think this is growing, this parental space. We're probably looking to do more in terms of education for parents. Now, a really exciting development, and there's a real momentum in New South Wales and I understand in Queensland as well, is the linkage of schools, and to recognise the incredible contribution of schools in the participation and the talent levels. So I'm doing a lot more work with schools where we're mapping the grades, the curriculum with FTEM, and particularly doing work and giving advice in the emerging athlete programs in the talent levels. So what we can do at school level to really support the emerging student athlete. And that work is really evolving. There's fantastic passion and enthusiasm in the school space. So on the right here is probably the flow of what I utilise when I work with the school. So it's mapping, it's educating on FTEM, the best practice principles, all the resources. It's then the implementation, working with the school on that implementation through programs. What's the fit of programs, the constituents of programs, the athlete planning and support, the coach education, and then importantly, the linkage with the SSO and the NIN and the academies as well. And really looking at, I think in time, a common individual athlete development plan for emerging athletes, because a lot of athletes, everyone has different plans and different commitments, requirements for athletes, and a way that we can all get on the same page so we're not overloading our emerging student athletes who already have so many demands and load on them. So we really need to look at how we can do that effectively. And then finally, once we implement, monitoring and evaluating and evolving the strategy as well. But then finally, we're working in the officials space with my dear colleague at La Trobe University, Associate Professor Claire McMahon, who is an absolute guru in official development. She was always keen to apply FTEM for officials. And so we revisited the FTEMO that she originally published in 2013. We revisited that last year, and you can see that FTEMO, a very generic one to support the officials development, and then the deliberate overlay of 3D OD, so 3D official development model. So while we might look at the talent levels, we go through the profiling, the opportunities, the support, who's supporting, and then the linkage, the overarching policy, strategy, programming and funding. So this has been fantastic to have this published, to then implement it. It's currently being implemented with Basketball Australia, and we're doing some great work with Basketball New South Wales. It's a really exciting space. And then finally, I guess the key thing for me is while we build these strategies and we're doing the implementation, we need to know, are we on the right track? Are we really making a positive contribution and a meaningful impact? So I've developed behind the scenes some tools to get a sense of, particularly in the talent pipelines, the health of the talent pipelines. And that can be at an individual athlete level, but also an organisational level as well. So it'll be a blend of pathways data, athlete and stakeholder insights. So we've developed a participant and athlete questionnaire with ethical approval through La Trobe University to get a better understanding of the experience of the athletes here and now and what could be done better. We've developed partner health checks. So we've got an Academy of Sport health check that goes through the best practice approach for talent. And it's like a checkbox, I guess, for them. And then what's the linkage with the state sporting organisation? And then finally, the state sporting organisation pathway health checks. Again, utilising the best practice principles of FTEM as a bit of a checklist for them to self-reflect, to assess where they're at, to look at a couple of things they might prioritise, to tweak their strategy and implementation. So finally, I just want to draw your attention to the Pathways and Development web pages on our website. There's the QR code. You'll get access to FTEM New South Wales and those resources I spoke to, the actual Future Champions strategy that we're revisiting at the moment. We're winding up our phase 1 action plan, which really built the foundations for the strategy going forward. And we're looking at a phase 2 action plan, and then the resources and tools for stakeholders. And that's it.